Okay, so now I'm going to give an example of how this IBE reasoning works in terms of the best explanation. And I'm actually just going to pull from the example in the book because I think it's a pretty good one. Okay, so in the story, what happens? You get home and you see a broken lock on your door. You open the door and you find that the place is a mess and that valuables are missing. Okay, and on this basis, you conclude what? You can conclude that you were burglarized. Okay, your house was burglarized. Now, is this good reasoning? Is it bad reasoning? I think it's actually pretty good reasoning. Okay, um, but let's show how the reasoning works using the form, the IBE form that we've learned. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is nail down your observations. Okay, and so what are the things you observe? And this what you observe. This will be your D1, your D2, D3. So it could be like D1 could be what? There was a broken lock. Okay. Um, D2 could be valuables are missing. Okay. So we'll just list. Normally there's a lot more observations, but yeah, D1 there's a broken lock. D2 valuables are missing. Okay. Now you want to start listing hypotheses. What might have happened? Okay. The hypothesis you would have concluded was this. So hypothesis could be your house was burglarized. Okay. Now there's going to be some other hypotheses too that the book mentions. I mean, like, so what are other possibilities that could have happened? Well, there's other ones like H1. The police came. Um, Maybe they were looking for drugs and they took your valuables as evidence. Or H2. What is it? Your friends are playing a joke. Or H3. Let's see. I'm running out of room. H3. Um, Meteor hit the lock. Okay, and vaporized the valuables. Okay. Now these are other hypotheses, but the hypothesis you're going to land on is the house was burglarized. Okay. Now let's see how this fits into our argument form. Okay. So premise one will state your observations, D1, D2, D3. And as we said, that for us is just going to be there's a broken lock and valuables are missing. Okay. So premise one is just going to say um, there's a broken lock um, and valuables are missing. Okay, so those are our observations. There's a broken lock and valuables are missing. That's our D1 and D2. There is no D3 for this one, so we just go to the next premise. Premise two. Now, what you're going to try to argue is that this happened by a burglary. Okay, so this is hypothesis H combined with previously accepted facts is a good explanation of observations D1, D2, D3. Okay, so what you'll say is um, the hypothesis that the okay, what's our hypothesis? Our hypothesis is that the house was burglarized. Okay, the hypothesis that the house was burglarized Okay, that's your hypothesis H, that the house was burglarized. Combined with uh, previously accepted facts. Okay, so you're going to keep that combined with previously accepted facts is a good explanation of what? Of the observations that there's a broken lock and valuables missing. Okay, so this is going to be our D1, D2, D3 here. Okay, so here we put in our hypothesis, the hypothesis that the house was burglarized, that's our hypothesis H, combined with previously accepted facts, is a good explanation of the observations that there's a broken lock and valuables missing. That's our D1, D2 up here. Okay, next. Premise 3 is our comparison premise. And it goes like this. No other hypothesis is nearly as good an explanation as the hypothesis that the house was burglarized. Remember, your hypothesis H is the hypothesis that your house was burglarized, down here. So P3 is claiming that no other hypothesis is nearly as good an explanation as the hypothesis that the house was burglarized. And these are those other hypotheses, which is the police came, was looking for drugs, or your friends were playing a joke, or a meteor hit the lock and vaporized the valuables. Okay? And then, at last, we can conclude probably the house was burglarized. Okay, so this is how our so it's a pretty long argument, but this is the form in which we argue. Okay, and even though there's a lot of words here, it's actually the main point's very intuitive. You take your observations, okay, broken lock, missing valuables. You give a hypothesis. The hypothesis that the house was burglarized, combined with previously accepted facts, is a good explanation of the observation that there's a broken lock and missing valuables, okay, your data. You need this premise 3, though. You have to say no other hypothesis is nearly as good an explanation as the hypothesis that the house was burglarized. It can't be just that you have a good explanation of the facts, because there might be another explanation that's just as good. So you need to also claim that no other hypothesis is nearly as good an explanation. And then you can conclude probably the house was burglarized. And any argument in this form is going to be inductively forceful. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to study this a little more and dig in deeper.